Welcome back to the ongoing coverage and analysis of Dune Awakening. In this series, we are going to take a deeper look at a few interesting topics in Dune Awakening, starting off with base building. Let's do it. Don't expect new footage here, but instead we'll take a closer look at what we've already seen, focusing on different build pieces and architecture styles from the trailers. For instance, we see a clear difference in what I'm calling the Atreides style and the Arrakeen style shown here with the stone horizontal planks. The Atreides style features these smooth concrete slabs and square tile floors. And what is this? We don't talk about it, but that's clearly some holographic terminal for your base that might function as a war table of sorts, perhaps a place to share maps. I don't know, but it's there and we should talk about it more. We haven't seen any other building styles outside of the Arrakeen and Atreides styles yet. We have seen some other places like rundown buildings and these enemy outposts using the Arrakeen style with these stacked stone planks, so it's safe to say this is maybe the default or base level building style before you progress into other styles. Talking a little bit about the different placeable pieces, we've seen images of these all over the place. It's fair to assume we are looking at the crafting table here that fabricates items. My money is on this being a small storage container next to it, and in the back what appears to be water storage or maybe the Exsanguinator. I haven't been able to confirm that yet, as we will see another piece that might be filling the role here in a minute. The armor crafting station we see here has popped up a few times. I think it's pretty obvious that this is that. You can clearly see a cloaked armor piece being built here. We also know now from a recent video with Force Gaming that craft from chests will be a quality of life feature, so that container to the left is potentially where you could put resources and the station will just pull from that, which would be cool. Here are some other stations, what looks to be maybe a crafting station or a healing station or something in the back there, indicated by the green terminal light and the red crafting light seemingly, though I can't say what it is for sure. Here again we see the armor station, so that's pretty much solidified now, potentially some storage or battery modules up top. And then again, we see the water storage or maybe the Exsanguinator. I think both of these might be either or. We have actually seen a ton of build pieces already in clips like this mega speed build. Everything is slowed down to give us a better chance at identifying things, of course, but tons of the Atreides style has been on display. Though I cannot say what this thing is down here, maybe some late stage wind turbine or perhaps a shield generator module. If that's the case, protect it at all costs, everyone, if you want to keep your base safe from tomfoolery. There are a few odds and ends I don't feel confident yet putting a label on, like these weird containers, but what I do feel confident in is how power is going to be generated in this game. A little bit about power generation here. We see this piece a lot, and I'm almost set on the idea that this is a hybrid, what I would call solar wind generator. I don't know if this exists in the lore, and if it does, it probably has a different name, but we see it all over the place, and it's safe to assume this will be used to generate power for your base that will likely be needed to operate the machinery and crafting stations to complete production for your needs. You can see a terminal at the base of it, and it bears the looks of being lined with solar paneling all over the fan blades. It's in absolutely every base clip, and I think we can agree it's going to be a much needed piece for running your base and completing various projects. We've also been told that many machines require industrial levels of water to maintain eventually, so make sure to keep those tanks filled up to the brim. Moving into the blueprint system a bit, here we see the ghostly shell of a blueprint buildable piece. We also get a shot of the UI for building here in a second, with lots to take in, including the options that you'll get when in build mode, ranging from build, repair, move, demolish, and piece picker, which will allow you to go through the different pieces to use. You can fill the hologram with left click if you have the pieces, or just place the ghostly shell if you don't have the resources yet. Here we see the same ghostly shell but in orange, so maybe that's a customizable color, or it's an indicator that you already have the pieces to just build it outright without needing to place a shell down first. But it does seem like other players can actively see you in build mode and what pieces you're planning to place as you do it, so that might make collaborating a bit easier if your friends can know what pieces you're using and you can coordinate around that. Here's that long speed build clip again. It also shows the blueprint system in full effect. We see the green ghostly forms being placed, and then they get filled in piece by piece. This can happen from presumably anyone in your party or guild, and there is a permissions tab in the skill tree image which suggests that pieces are placed and are owned by the person placing them, and that they have to set permissions for others to help in the building process. The permissions tab likely also sets permissions for player-owned vehicles, but I'm making a guess that it also applies to buildings. We then see the same scene from atop the base, showcasing the architecture verticality a little more, and featuring more of the solar wind generators, as well as an ornithopter off to the right. More on that ornithopter in the vehicles episode of this video series, but briefly, I did want to point out the size and scale difference between players and ornithopters. It is shown in more detail later in these videos, but the vehicles seem to be very large in comparison. You can see the ornithopter takes up the entire perch piece over there. A brief snip about base shields. While we don't know entirely how the shielding of a base will work, whether it's something that covers the whole base, like we see in the movies, or whether it just applies to these gates we see here, we do know you will need to make sure your shield generators are working and charged. This either comes in the form of likely maintaining a battery or generator piece, which is what I think that giant tank might be by the door, or maybe it's just possibly making sure that you have enough electricity being generated by the wind turbines and other things to power your shields. We don't have super concrete answers about that just yet. And is that an elevator shaft, or am I crazy? I don't know yet. It's tough to say if some of the clips we see are player-made bases or faction outposts, but they do share similarities, and we have been told that most of the faction outposts are made with the same pieces that the players will have access to. So you can build something that looks relatively official, which is a nice touch. Here we see the Atreides armor sets on display. More about that in the next episode covering all the different armors in the game. But beyond the player-made spaces, we have seen some areas that show differing styles. This seems to be a more disheveled area and maybe just a social hub for trade. And this was said to be what your base will start to look like with either damage or after not paying your spice taxes. Failure to repeatedly pay apparently results in the Sardaukar coming to have a word with you, a strict talking to. Just some better looks at the Atreides build style here, the larger staircases, the overhangs that also act as landing pads for ornithopters. An Atreides interior here with lumen, tech, and dust in the air. We can see the Atreides emblem on the inside and also the sweet vase work on display. A glimpse at potential dew fields here with the yellow flowers, as well as what building into the rock walls is going to look like. We can apparently get pretty cozy on the side of the cliffs there. Nothing said on how these sections connect internally or if they all have separate entrances, but maybe elevators are a thing? These, I think it's okay to guess, are industrial wind traps. To me, they fit the build. They are on many rooftops, and I just don't know what else they can be at this point. These are probably top tier versions of all these pieces seen, so maybe still expect some variation in the progression to get to these versions. Quick note about turret systems. I haven't found these on any obviously player-made structures, so I can't say whether players will have access to base defense per se, but we definitely see evidence of turrets in the game, on faction buildings, and in the concept art, for several faction types. So there's potential here for some zones to be anti-air, meaning you can only access them by the ground, no cheesing with the ornithopter and getting out quick, but a more methodical extraction type mission might be in the cards, which could be a more rewarding, intense mechanic to force immersive engagement with these faction outposts and prevent you from just landing on top of the treasure room and instantly getting out unscathed. Some places of note that we've seen in several clips but maybe never put together. As we see here, this structure features a sloping rock ramp and a squatty square building with a large spire coming out of its center and a large tower in the background. Here we see a ground car climbing up a rock ramp and potentially the same squatty building with a spire in the center during the nighttime. And then again, we see that same rock ramp and squatty square building from the opposite side this time. Note there's no large tower in the background on this shot, so we're likely looking at this from the opposite side. Could be a player base, no idea. Some concept art of what the shipwreck experience will be, and then we get to see this later, what the larger shipwrecks can look like in the game. We actually have seen a few versions of shipwrecks now, from large to small. The small seems to be just quick loot grabs, maybe an enemy survivor or two to dispatch, but the large shipwrecks, like the one shown here, are closer to a dungeon run, with high value loot and danger. They will be PvP zones, and as we can see here, you will be better suited going in as a squad to fend off other guilds and enemies if you want to secure the valuable loot within. Some of the old world outposts and enemy camps that we've seen a few times will be fun for PvE runs, but we will find out more at Gamescom in August, I imagine. Before we head out, I just want to remind you to return for the next videos where we will be covering armor sets as well as the vehicle types in Dune Awakening, and one last glance at the size of those ornies, baby. But that's it for this one. Make sure to keep it locked right here at NZMPLAYS, and make sure to like and subscribe for the latest goods on this and more. Till then, peace!